The Art Director's Debrief, Final Part 2, The Modern Psychology of Pride and Prejudice. Hello, and welcome back to the Emotive archive for the grand finale of our analysis of Pride and Prejudice. In our previous discussion, we stripped the novel down to its bare economic bones, viewing it as a strategic game played on the ruthless marriage market. We saw the characters as assets and investors, their choices governed by a cold financial logic. But that is only half of the picture. It is the skeleton, not the soul. Today, we put the heart back into the machine. We will move from the what to the why. Why do these characters, after 200 years, still feel so profoundly real, so deeply, frustratingly, and wonderfully human? The answer, I believe, lies in the fact that Jane Austen was not just a brilliant social commentator, but one of the most astute and ahead-of-her-time psychologists in literary history. Today, we will re-examine this timeless story through the lens of modern psychology, and in doing so, we will see that the drawing rooms of Hertfordshire are not so different from the digital landscapes of our own 21st century. This is the story of Pride and Prejudice as a mirror to our modern minds. Let us begin with the man at the center of it all, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy. For centuries, he has been the archetype of the proud, arrogant aristocrat. But what if we were to offer a different diagnosis? What if his infamous pride is not arrogance in the way we typically understand it, but rather a manifestation of profound, high-functioning social anxiety? Let's look at the evidence. He enters a crowded, unfamiliar ballroom and immediately shuts down. He finds it impossible to interact, to make small talk, to perform the expected social rituals. He clings to his own small party as a shield. He is described as continually standing aloof, speaking only occasionally to his own party. Is this the behavior of a man who believes he is superior, or is it the classic behavior of a severe introvert, completely overwhelmed by a high-stimulus social situation? His infamous tolerable comment, while inexcusably rude, was a private remark to his closest friend, a clumsy, defensive statement from someone who feels scrutinized and out of place. He doesn't know how to navigate this new social terrain, so he defaults to a protective shell of cold indifference. His awkward, silent visits to Hunsford further support this theory. He repeatedly seeks out Elizabeth's company, yet when he is there, he often says nothing. This is not the action of a proud man who enjoys displaying his superiority. It is the action of a man who is powerfully drawn to someone, but whose anxiety makes genuine connection feel like an insurmountable challenge. His first proposal is the ultimate proof. It is a psychological car crash. He rehearsed it, he planned it, but when the moment comes, his anxiety takes over. He cannot express his love without simultaneously listing all the social and intellectual reasons why he shouldn't, a catastrophic attempt to rationalize an emotion that terrifies him. He is a man of immense status and intelligence, but he is emotionally illiterate, crippled by an inability to navigate the very social world he is supposed to command. Viewed through this lens, Darcy becomes an infinitely more sympathetic and modern character, not a simple arrogant hero, but a man battling a very real internal struggle between his feelings and his deep-seated social anxiety. Now let us turn our modern psychological lens onto our heroine, Elizabeth Bennet. Her defining trait is her wit and her quickness of judgment. Her flaw, as the title suggests, is prejudice. But what is prejudice in modern psychological terms? It is, in its most refined form, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency of the human mind to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports one's pre-existing beliefs. And Elizabeth Bennet is a master practitioner.
Her process is clinical. First, she forms an initial hypothesis based on a single data point, Darcy's tolerable comment at the Meryton ball. Her thesis is formed: Mr. Darcy is an arrogant, proud, and disagreeable man. From this moment forward, her brilliant mind ceases to be an objective tool of inquiry and becomes a high-powered machine for confirming this thesis. She actively seeks out and embraces any piece of evidence that supports her initial judgment, while dismissing anything that contradicts it. When Mr. Wickham arrives, he doesn't just find a sympathetic ear, he finds the perfect test subject for a masterclass in narrative manipulation. His tragic story is the evidence Elizabeth has been subconsciously craving. It fits her existing theory of Darcy so perfectly that she accepts it without a single shred of corroborating evidence. She, a woman who prides herself on her perception, is completely blinded by her own bias. She dismisses her own sister Jane's gentle skepticism. She ignores the fact that Wickham is telling this deeply personal, reputation-destroying story to a near stranger, a major red flag. Her prejudice requires Darcy to be a villain, and Wickham's story provides the perfect villainous portrait. It's a powerful and timeless warning about how even the most intelligent minds can be led astray when we fall in love with our own opinions. Her journey throughout the novel is not about finding a husband. It is the slow, painful, and deeply humbling journey of overcoming her own confirmation bias and learning to see the world and the people in it as they truly are, not as she has decided they should be. The psychological acuity of the novel extends far beyond its two protagonists. The supporting cast forms a veritable gallery of recognizable personality types and psychological profiles. Mrs. Bennet, for instance, can be viewed as a classic study in narcissistic traits and emotional dysregulation. Her world revolves entirely around her own anxieties. Her daughters are not individuals to her, but extensions of herself, tools to be used to secure her own social standing and soothe her poor nerves. She lacks empathy, as seen in her complete disregard for Jane's real heartbreak or Elizabeth's desire for a respectful union. Her emotional state is a volatile roller coaster, swinging from hysterical despair to manic triumph, based entirely on external events. She is incapable of self-reflection and blames everyone else, Mr. Bennet, Elizabeth, the Lucases, for her own misfortunes. Mr. Bennet, in turn, is a portrait of the avoidant personality. He is a man of intelligence and wit, but he uses these gifts not to engage with the world, but to retreat from it. His library is his fortress. His sarcasm is his shield, a tool to keep emotional intimacy and responsibility at a distance. He married a foolish woman, and rather than engaging with the difficult task of managing his household and raising his daughters, he retreated into a state of passive-aggressive amusement. He observes the follies of his family as if he were a detached spectator at a play, failing to realize he is the director who has abandoned the stage. His tragic admission to Elizabeth late in the novel that he is ashamed of his own long-standing neglect is the painful moment of self-awareness for a man who has spent a lifetime avoiding it. And then there is the great Lady Catherine de Bourgh, a textbook narcissist. She is a woman defined by an inflated sense of self-importance, a desperate need for admiration, and a complete lack of empathy for others. She does not have conversations, she conducts interrogations. She does not give opinions, she issues decrees. Her entire world is structured to reflect her own greatness. Rosings is not a home, it is a monument to her status. She sees other people, including her own daughter, not as accessories to her own life. Her final confrontation with Elizabeth is a classic example of narcissistic rage. When Elizabeth refuses to bow to her authority, refusing to be a pawn in her game, Lady Catherine cannot comprehend it. She explodes with fury because her sense of control over the world has been challenged. Her visit is a desperate final attempt to maintain a social order where she sits at the absolute center. Ultimately, Pride and Prejudice can be read as a novel about the development of emotional intelligence, or EQ. At the beginning of the story, both Elizabeth and Darcy have high IQs. They are intelligent, articulate, and perceptive in their own ways. However, their EQ, particularly in relation to each other, is disastrously low. They lack the core components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills. Darcy is not self-aware enough to realize how his proud demeanor is perceived by others. Elizabeth is not self-aware enough to recognize her own blinding prejudice. They cannot empathize with each other's positions, and their social skills in each other's presence are non-existent, resulting in a series of painful and awkward encounters. The entire plot of the novel, then, is their journey towards EQ. Darcy's first rejection is a shock to his system that forces him into self-reflection. His letter is the first sign of his attempt to use empathy, to explain his perspective rather than just asserting it. Elizabeth's reading of the letter is the beginning of her own journey into self-awareness, culminating in the humbling moment at Pemberley where she realizes, "Till this moment, I never knew myself." Their second proposal is a masterpiece of emotional intelligence. He approaches with humility and a focus on her feelings. She accepts with grace and honesty. They have learned to communicate, to empathize, and to regulate their own pride and prejudice. They have, in essence, graduated. And this is why the story remains eternally modern. The ballrooms may have been replaced by social media feeds, the handwritten letters by text messages, and the rigid class structures by more fluid social hierarchies, but the fundamental human struggles remain the same. We still make snap judgments based on a profile picture. We still fall victim to confirmation bias, believing narratives that confirm our own views. We still struggle to balance our personal desires with the expectations of our families and societies. We still grapple with our own pride and our own prejudices. The journey of Elizabeth and Darcy is our journey. It is the timeless, difficult, and ultimately beautiful journey of learning to see others and ourselves with a little more clarity, a little more humility, and a little love. Thank you for completing this journey with me here at the Emotive Archive.